Yes, it's a Kia. Yes, you might want one. No, this Gran Turismo model isn't merely a copy of something German. Welcome to the Kia Stinger, here usefully improved. The looks don't lie.
With this revised Stinger model, the only variant still available is the GTS we always liked the most, fitted out with a growly, potent twin-turbo 3.3-litre TGDI petrol V6. Due to emissions updates, this unit's 361 bhp output is a fraction less than before, but it still sounds great, and the performance figures are little different. 62 miles an hour dispatched in just 4.7 seconds, on the way to 168 if you're quick, with the smooth 8-speed automatic transmissions, steering wheel mounted paddle shifters. As before, this powertrain offers a lusty 510 newton-meters of torque, starts pulling from just 1500 revs, and really gets into its sweet spot between 3,000 and 4,000 RPM, clearing its throat with the aid of a mildly contrived audio system soundtrack that broadcasts responses to your right foot if you switch into one of the sporty driving modes. As is usual with setups of this kind, there are two dynamic settings on offer, Sport and Sport Plus, though to use the second of these, you'll need to be feeling a little brave. That's because Sport Plus restricts stability control assistance, which means it's quite easy to get the rear end squirming playfully about with a quick and deliberate jab on the throttle. That reminds you of the Stinger's proper old-school rear-wheel driven configuration. The original Stinger was the first Kia ever propelled from the back axle. Well, it was for the UK anyway. Left-hand drive markets always had the Stinger GTS with all-wheel drive, a format that continues to be unavailable here for reasons that Kia vaguely explains away by citing differences in packaging. We've always felt, though, that drive from the rear rather suits this Stinger's old-school feel, originally developed by a team led by ex-BMW M-Car engineer Albert Biermann. Thankfully, not much has changed with that, apart from a slight retuning of the adaptive dampers, a subtle revision to the surprisingly responsive power steering, and a switch from Continental Sport Contact 5 tyres to Michelin Pilot Sport 4S rubber. To compensate for the lack of all-wheel drive, the brand continues to standardise a limited slip differential across the range for our market, and this, in concert with a torque vectoring system that lightly brakes the inside front wheel at speed through fast corners, means that the Stinger remains impressively adept at overcoming its rather portly 1,890 kilo body weight and hurling itself from bend to bend should you be inclined to drive it in such a fashion. Ultimately, this is a GT rather than a super sports saloon, a poor man's BMW M5, if you like. The Stinger is that good, was and still is. It's still almost everything you wouldn't expect a Kia to be. As before, this model is a Gran Turismo-style 5-door sports hatch, aimed at the quickest versions of slinky premium badge models like Audi's A5 Sportback and BMW's 4 Series Gran Coupe. Not much has changed at the front, where, as before, the bonnet sports fake vents and the Stinger's tiger nose grille sits between LED headlights. From the side, you'll notice the restyled 19-inch alloy wheels with their Brembo brake calipers. And at the rear, redesigned combination LED tail lamps stretch across the full width of the car with a more distinctive light signature, mimicking the shape of the subtle spoiler integrated into the boot lid. It certainly feels very opulent inside, where a proper level of screen tech has finally arrived for Stinger folk. If you happen to be familiar with the restricted 8-inch centre monitor of the original model, you'll welcome this much more impressive 10.25-inch centre stack infotainment screen, which resides just above these three rather unique jet engine-style centre vents. The chrome-bezeled instrument cluster remains defiantly analogue, but the two gauges are separated by a clear 7-inch screen that delivers most of what you need to know. And you view it all through a chunky, flat-bottomed, leather-stitched 3-spoke wheel. This being a facelift, there are no changes to cabin architecture, but the dash and doors gain smarter contrast stitching. The centre console is finished in aluminium. There's a metallic finish to sections of the steering wheel. A frameless rear view mirror has been added, and you now get a 64-colour mood lighting system. It's not especially easy to get into the low-slung back seat. But once you do, rear seat space is acceptable by class standards, with adequate legroom, even for taller adults. Out back, the powered tailgate is of the sort you can access with a wave of your foot below the bumper. And once it's raised, there's a 406-litre boot. And if you flatten the 60-40 split rear bench, you'll free up a modest 1,114 litres of total capacity. The efficiency figures recorded here aren't bad, but they still illustrate that this South Korean brand has a little way to match its German competitors in this regard. Let's get to the WLTP figures. For the 3.3-litre TGDI GTS model, the only one now on offer, you're looking at 28 miles per gallon and 229 grams per kilometre. As with all Kias, the Stinger is covered by a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty that's longer than any other car in the same class. Think of everything you expect a Kia to be. Bet you're not thinking of anything like this. But then that's just the point. The Stinger was designed to get you thinking differently. With this revised model, we were disappointed that lower order variants had been deleted from the range and that you still couldn't have four-wheel drive in this top V6 GTS version that remained. This revised model's upgraded cabin and much improved ADAS drive assist technology certainly felt more appropriate for the required and quite exalted price point. But otherwise, things were much as before. In driving it, we continue to like the Stinger very much and much regret its passing. This car saw Kia laying claim to be a world-class manufacturer. Its replacement, the EV6 GT, picked up where this model left off, but there's still nothing quite like a Stinger, and maybe there won't ever be.